the Weekly Show with David J. Maloney.
This week, David chats with the Incredible Hulk himself, Lou Ferrigno.
And now, here's your host, David J. Maloney.
Welcome, everyone, to the Weekly Show. I'm your host, David J. Maloney. On tonight's show, we've got a really special guest who's permanently enshrined in TV and film history for his titular roles as both the Incredible Hulk and Hercules, and for his incredible influence on bodybuilding culture in America and across the world. Here to chat about it all is none other than Lou Ferrigno. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Our featured guest tonight will be forever enshrined in the world's memory for his titular roles across both TV and film in The Incredible Hulk and Hercules, and for his undeniable influence on bodybuilding culture across the globe. Here to chat about his incredible life and career is none other than the Hulk and Hercules himself, Lou Ferrigno. Lou, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm doing dandy. So for so many people, you live in the public consciousness as the original Incredible Hulk. And as I've learned your story, I'd say it almost seems to me like you were like born to be the Hulk. Am I correct that your childhood experiences played a massive part in kind of setting you on the path to getting that role? I mean, what's the story or association there?
I was the Hulk my whole life because when I was a kid, I used to read magazines to escape the pain because being young, I had to overcome diversity. The hearing and the speech issues. So I used to read the reason why I like the Hulk so much because it was the only superhero you see the muscles. He didn't have a costume. But I loved G versus E, and I used to fantasize being powerful like him because he was like a sensitive creature and that he would fight any kind of obstacles against him. So I related to that. And eventually I ended up playing the Hulk and playing Hercules because I was very obsessed and attracted to those superpower heroes.
Does it make you emotional at all to think back of yourself as a kid kind of reading the Incredible Hulk comics, trying to find some solace, knowing that the character you were seeing on those pages would one day change your life?
Yeah, because I was a kid, I had to read the comic books. People made fun of me. They said, you're reading comic books. You should be in school studying. I just love comic books. But if I said to someone when I was maybe 60 years ago, I'm 72 now, and say someday you're going to see a comic book convention and you're going to have everybody from every walk of life reading comic books, they would have probably put me in a mental institution. But the thing is that little did I realize because of my passion when I was young, that led me to bodybuilding. And it's my passion because I kept saying I just love it so much. And look, it's taken me what I am now. It's amazing because when I used to read those comics, on the bottom of the comic book, it said written by Stan Lee. And I said, Stan Lee, I wish I could meet him someday. And I kept thinking about Stan Lee. I thought maybe it was some kind of a ghostwriter, but little did I realize that when I did the series, the second season, I got a chance to meet Stan Lee.
That's so cool.
He changed my whole life.
You're a famously gigantic figure in real life at like 6'5", I think, and obviously really muscular. Were you always like the biggest, baddest kid in your class? Or if we look back like in your yearbook pictures, would we have been surprised?
When I was 14, when I went to high school, I was 5'6" inches tall. I'm sorry, 5'7". I weighed 136 pounds. When I graduated high school, I was 6'2". I weighed 176 pounds. I was very thin. But I just loved power bodybuilding. And then eventually, when I was 18, 19, I started to put size. But I got bullied a lot when I was a kid, even in high school, because I had to find my own fights. It just, my father was a police lieutenant. And my father said, if you ever come home, get a beating, I'll give you another beating. So basically, I had to learn how to defend myself.
At what point did you start thinking seriously about competing professionally in bodybuilding contests?
Well, when I was 19 years old, I wanted to compete. And I remember that I had the guts to go to my competition. It was called the Open New Jersey Mr. Hercules competition. I came 23rd place. But what's interesting, when I wanted to stage the pose, I remember the flash bulb going up, people were clapping. I said to myself, I'm doing something right. And I went home and I told my parents, I said, I want to be a champion. It's just something in you. It's that drive. I go to the gym. I used to look in the mirrors, read magazines. I said, I have a chance. I have the potential to go somewhere. It was inside of me. It was that drive because it saved my life. Because if I hadn't had that, I would be around today.
You rather famously came into the bodybuilding world with a certain Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime. When was the first time you met Arnold, and what sticks out to you about that meeting?
Well, I wanted to go see the Mr. Universe competition. It was 1969. I begged my father to take me. I never forget what it was called, the Brooklyn Academy of Music. And Arnold was there. He was training he was pumping up for the Mr. Universe. I'd never seen anybody so big in my life. But I kept staring at him, saying that I get to see him in the flesh. It's like I'd read about him in the magazine, study his routines, watch him, but in the flesh, it left such an effect on me to see a human body like that. And I said, this is what I want. And I remember watching him that night when the Mr. Universe competition. I said, this is my path. And it just opened the doors because he was the first bodybuilder over 6 feet to compete. And I emulated him because I wanted to be like him. But it's that was my whole future. I said, this one I want to be.
Did you feel any kinship or brotherhood in any way with Arnold or any of the other bodybuilders you found yourself competing against?
Well, you got to remember he was my idol. Of course, I wanted to compete against him because we came from similar fathers. His father was like a chief of police. My father was a police lieutenant. Myself, I became a deputy sheriff 18 years ago. But we had the same, what you call the love and hate relationship with the father, meaning that, for example, when I was young, I didn't have perfect hearing, so I had to carry my father's pain. I wasn't good enough. I was not the perfect son. Arnold told me the father was the same way because he felt like Arnold should reading these Muslim magazines, playing soccer, he should do something that's much more, it should be more education than being different sports and bodybuilding. So we have a lot of similarities.
Mm. How were you first introduced to the idea of participating in the documentary Pumping Iron? What do you remember about that conversation?
Well, what happened though, they came to the gym in Brooklyn and took pictures. They said they could come out with a book called Pumping Iron. They took pictures of me. And there's two people named Charles Gaines and George Butler, because they want to explore the world of bodybuilding and present it to the mainstream, to the media, to the general public. And I got excited because I felt like it was going somewhere. Then when the book came out, it became a bestseller. Then they approached me about doing the movie. At the time, I was training for the ABC Superstars competition, and so I felt like, let me get this up and compete in the movie and then come back to the competition, the ABC Superstars. At the same time, I was having a bad relationship with my father because my father was my voice. So they decided to put the father and son in the movie. I mean, my father never really worked out with me. We did it for the movie. Mm-hmm. So I just knew that I wanted to be part of this film. And we all flew to South Africa for the competition. To me, it was exciting because at the time, Arnold was about to retire because he wanted to move on to do different things. And I felt like I competed with him in 74. I felt like if I don't compete with him, I'm going to walk away and do something else because my desire was to be the best in the world. So when the movie came out, it really exposed to show the other side as a bodybuilder, the lifestyle, everything. And the rest is history because I remember we traveled to Africa. We've gone to different places to film. It was a lot of fun because at the time, the general public didn't know bodybuilding was because I don't know if you know that the Pumping Iron book came out. They didn't put Arnold on the cover because they felt like it was too intimidating to the public. So they used another man named Ed Corney because I remember they had a screening for Pumping Iron and the executives were laughing. They said, who's this German guy with the space between his teeth? He's a champion. They were laughing because little did they realize that the movie had such a huge impact because we were like freaks back then because most guys outside would go to pro football. So back then it became an explosion when it came out in the world of fitness and bodybuilding.
So I was going to ask you if you had any inkling at all at the time that this documentary was actually going to have a massive blockbuster hit in the US, but it sounds like based on the screenings that maybe people were thinking it might not do well.
Well, I had a feeling it was going to do well because no one's ever seen anything like this before because today it's classified as a docudrama. But back then it was a documentary. But I just had a feeling that would have hit the mainstream that mother, mom, pop, older people would know bodybuilding was because the only people that knew what bodybuilding was in the Muslim magazine. So they get to see the real blood, sweat, and tears of the sport. People, they had a big screening in New York City. I mean, Raquel Welch came. I was there. Arnold was there. All the bodybuilders. We were on stage posing for the exhibition. It was so well received. It was better than I expected.
So when did you first realize the film was probably going to change your life? I mean, did anybody ever call you and tell you how it was doing at the box office, or was it just known immediately?
I think it had legs because when I did it, that after the movie came out, I was living in California to train for the 1977 Miss Olympia competition. But what Pumping Iron did for me, It gave me a chance to audition for the Incredible Hulk TV series. So if they saw the movie, they interview Arnold, they interview me, they felt I was perfect for the part. The one thing led to another. So what wasn't for Pumping Iron, I wouldn't be playing the Hulk, because it's funny that they were doing a large casting call nationwide, so they felt I was perfect for the part. But I remember at the time, just before I did the Hulk, they had a premiere in New York City. It went well. That was just 6 months before, and then the rest is history.
What did you think of the film when you sat down and watched it?
You mean the movie?
Yeah.
I felt a little embarrassed because the fact that it was showing my, back then my speech was different. The relationship of my father and I felt like it was kind of like a stage father. And the world didn't know what my real relationship was, because I talked about it later on, the making of Pumping Iron. But I thought I had to go somewhere, go someplace. And I was very surprised when I went to the screening that I saw my baby pictures, and I was so well received, better than I expected, because I just wanted to be someone, be somebody.
I mean, we literally have you, Arnold, in this documentary pretty much to thank for bodybuilding culture that exploded into the 80s. Have you ever like just sat down and like stopped to think about just how much influence, I mean, you've had on our culture yourself?
Oh yeah, because when I came out with the Hulk series, that's before they came out with these action movies, because the Hulk was the first one that people got to see the real muscles on TV. So that changed everybody's perception what a bodybuilder is. And then eventually Stallone comes along, Arnold comes along, they're doing the film, that we were accepted to do movies. Now we have to look like Errol Flynn, or maybe or if you're a large, like for example, if you're a large bodybuilder, you can't get, you're kind of like typecast. So they all broke the typecast, because now you see The Rock, you see all these, like Hugh Jackman, everybody's buffed, everybody's working out, but it's being accepted because. And the best part is that for me, when I was on Celebrity Apprentice, they expected to see no all born, no brain. So I changed that, because it's all about challenges. But the movie really changed a lot, because even till today, when people see the Pumping Iron, it can never be duplicated, because back then we had what you call camaraderie. There's no camaraderie today, because back then, first prize was $750. We had to have a job, we had to feed ourselves. It's not like we get a check for $150,000, $400,000. So it was a different time era. It was beauty, with the love of the sport.
Well, and you didn't have the ability to become like a social media influencer and get passive income that way. You know what I mean? Like they have now. I mean, so many of the bodybuilders now have, Instagram and all these things, and they have ways to monetize, even just filming their own workouts.
Yeah, because back then the only thing you go by is the magazine, the publicity in the magazine. What changed me, for example, when I did the Hulk series, I was on talk shows. I had a chance to travel all over the world. And then since the Hulk, I've done over 50 films. I've done 6 different TV series, and I'm working all the time. But it all comes back to the beginning, when you come from. You can't forget where you come from. That's why bodybuilding is my life. That's why it's so nice you have a co-ed sport. You see men, women competing. It's so different today, because the time when I was training for competition, it was only a male sport. You never see a woman in the gym. So, but back then, you were doing bonding. You were like being a war. You go to the gym, you had to be a real man. I mean, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen.
So the documentary comes out, it explodes. You start getting calls for TV and film roles. What events lead up to you being cast as the Incredible Hulk? What is the story there?
I was top cast because the fact that people thought that was very limited. They felt like after the Hulk TV series that that could be the end of my career. But the thing is, I ended up doing stage plays, theater. I've taken voice lessons. I've taken speech lessons to change my speech. And also about 2.5 years ago, I received a cochlear implant. So that had a huge impact on me. So basically, I'm the kind of person that I maximize what I have. But I'm very proud because I'm a fighter. I can't take no for an answer, and I just love challenges because, we're on this planet for a short time. That's why I never want to sit back at the age of 80, 85 and say, I should have, if. Yeah.
I want to ask you about Bill Bixby. What's even more incredible to me about your role as the Hulk is you were only one side of the Hulk. Here you have Bill Bixby, as Bruce Banner. And yet when people think of the show, they probably think of you first. When did you first meet Bill, and what sticks out to you about that first meeting?
Well, I was a fan of Bill when he did the movie called TV series The Magician, of course, with Eddie's father.
That was
But
one of my
Bill,
favorite shows as a kid. I love that show.
yeah, and Bill told me that the first day he was on the set, I first met him when I was doing the audition for the Hulk. I never met a celebrity before, so when I saw him, I'm saying to myself, "I'm painting green." They're asking me to imitate the Hulk, to make the growl, the different sound. At the same time, I'm watching him. He's watching me with the director. And Bill said to me, "I'll never forget, when you came to the set, you see all these trucks, you look at the studio, the look on your face like you were in a different world." And Bill is my second father. I've learned so much from him. He taught me so much, especially I watch him learn. But I was like being a good actor, being very professional.
Is there one story that sticks out to you from your time shooting the show that you'll never forget?
Well, I remember, I think it was the second season. I think I was filming in Venice Beach. I was in the motorhome, and somebody knocked on my door. I was in full makeup. I was having a cup of coffee. So they kept knocking. I screamed. I said, "Come in." I wasn't looking. The door opened. The guy walked in. He got salt pepper hair, and he got dark glasses. And they had a kid with him. He closed the door, and he looked at me. He goes, "Excuse me, my name is Cary Grant. I'm here from England with my nephew." And I didn't know what to say, what to do. I mean, I couldn't speak. I was so mesmerized. He must have really thought I was really the Hulk. That to me has such an impact because I knew how popular the show was. That one of the greatest movie stars of all time comes to my motorhome to visit me. That was quite a treat.
So at this point in your career, you'd been bodybuilding for decades, but I read somewhere that you considered your work in Hercules to be the best you ever looked. But then a minute ago, you just said that you had to do different things to stay in condition. Was it the fact that you were doing these different things that helped you achieve that, or something else entirely?
My goal was that I said to myself, when I make this movie Hercules, that the body would never be duplicated, because 40 years later, no one had that look on the screen. No one. And I just knew that movie's permanent, because when you film in 2 or 3 months, you're going to maintain that same condition. It's not like you're training for competition and then you go off your diet a week later. So for me, I had to maintain that same condition for 3 months, even though we had to shoot the movie in different sequences.
When you finally saw Hercules on the big screen for the first time, what do you remember about that moment? I mean, if it was for me, I would think it would be like permanently etched in my memory.
Well, it was great because we had a premiere, and they had me come down Sunset Boulevard in a chariot dressed as Hercules. And I remember I had my huge fan base, my bodybuilding friends, producers, directors. And I saw on the big screen, I was very impressed because to see myself outside of the Hulk makeup as me, it was a real treat. I was very excited. I was very impressed.
So I'm watching the series The Offer, and the initial scene with the character Lenny Montana comes on, and I go, "Holy crap, that's Lou Ferrigno!" It was such a joy to see you in this, and it's one of my favorite miniseries of the last 5 years. And you being Italian, I'm largely Italian. There you are playing Lenny Montana, who was playing Luca Brasi, alongside of like Miles Teller, Colin Hanks, Matthew Good, and so many others. How did your casting for that show come about? I mean, you were absolutely perfect for it.
Well, they approached me and everything, and I did the audition for it. But what's interesting, in 1970, when the movie first came out, I remember I was sitting with a group of friends, and they were the older guy. He was talking about the beginning of the movie. He was talking about Luca Brasi and The Godfather, Marlon Brando. And I remember I was trying to listen to the conversation. My hearing wasn't perfect, but I was so engulfed in the conversation, the way they talk about The Godfather. And I said to myself, being the offer, it's like going back in the past to say, "Hey, everybody, I'm going to play Luca Brasi," because I did a lot of research, because Luca Brasi was a hitman. And he killed people because he was very indebted to his boss. So I really related to that character. I was so excited because it came so natural for me.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, and the scene with the cards and everything. I was like, like I said, it was like, I'm like, holy, I wasn't expecting it, and then there you were, and it was like, holy crap, there's Lou Ferrigno. That's awesome. The
only difficult part about the offer is that was filmed during COVID. We had to be tested every day. We couldn't have family, friends on the set. So I was hoping that would happen, have like a big red carpet, because of the COVID situation. So basically we had to wear a mask. And then, but I just love working with those actors, because the director, I forgot his name, Dexter Fletcher, he directed, a British director. It was beautiful, especially the set, especially the background, the wine, the cappuccino, the actor. I had a wonderful time.
it's just a feat that people don't appreciate how
Well, it's amazing
difficult it is.
how many people didn't realize what it's taken to get The Godfather made. All the threats, the shooting, the gang, Frank Sinatra, the studio, Paramount Studio, the whole beginning. It's amazing because people thought it was just a simple movie to get made, but especially Pacino, they wanted to reject him because he was like the midget considering Paramount Studios. It's like a brief little history. It was wonderful.
Yeah, the hurdles that they had to go through to make that movie is incredible. But I just thought your participation in the series was just a very pleasant surprise, and it had to be surreal making a show about a film, possibly the single greatest film of all time, for that matter. I mean, what was outside of the COVID challenges? I mean, and you also had a great cast around you. I mean, what was that experience like?
Well, you got that actor Juno Temple. I mean, especially the different actors like. It was incredible, especially when you're together with them. The performance was incredible because there was a lot of good scenes that they had to cut because they had to tailor-made the show. If they ever see these other scenes, but every episode we had a different, what you call Academy Award director. So I filmed like maybe 9 episodes out of 11, but I couldn't wait to get to the set because especially when you're on the set, the background, the way it was filmed, it reminds you back in the 70s when The Godfather was made and then what was New York back like in the 70s.
Kind of wrapping it up here, I want to go back to the Hulk one last time. Considering how connected you are with that character in the public consciousness, I wonder, especially knowing now that Hercules was, your more favorite role, was there ever a point where you felt kind of like Leonard Nimoy did about Spock, not wanting to be associated with it anymore? Because I mean, Leonard famously wrote 2 books. One, I Am Not Spock, and then much later, I Am Spock. Have you ever had that kind of relationship with the Hulk? I mean, what does the character mean to you after all these years?
Well, the Hulk began with me. I mean, I can make 7 Gone with the Wind movies tomorrow. Everybody would love me to see me as the Hulk. Of course, the fact that they know I'm an actor, I could play different roles. But the beauty about the Hulk is the fact that it got me started. It would be me till I pass on because a lot of people actually have TV series, they're forgotten. But because I kept that character alive, that's why I do a lot of comic convention. I still a huge draw, and the older I get, the more popular I am because now we have the Marvel Universe. And we have the different characters. But people go back, like, for example, William Shatner. The guy, he's like, he came out in the 60s. It's like me, him, the few of us left with the original TV series. And it's so iconic. That's why I'm very blessed to have that because everybody identifies me as the Hulk, which I don't mind because of respect. It's a love relationship. Because even though, I mean, I've done over 50 films, but I'll be making a lot more film. But the thing is that I'm always close to the Hulk. That's why I talked to Kevin Feige. He's the head of Marvel. I said, I want to be involved in the Marvel Universe as a different kind of a character, like a Nick Fury kind of a character. Because when I began this the pilot of the Hulk, Spider-Man and Captain America failed at the TV series. I was nervous, but the Hulk taken off. Became a huge hit, and that's why you see all these A-list actors today playing these different films because thanks to my TV series, because it opened all the doors.
Lou, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. And we on the Gulf Coast can't wait to see you at this year's Pensacon in Pensacola, Florida this spring. Ladies and gentlemen, Lou Ferrigno.
Thank you for your patience having me to speak to you tonight because I know I'm in the process of traveling, but thanks for having me on your show.
No, thanks for being on. You've been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lou Ferrigno.
Thank you.
That's our show for tonight. A special thanks to actor and bodybuilder Lou Ferrigno for joining us. And thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, everyone.